Bases dropped. Well past Wednesday. Anything's on the table. John, here you there. Thanks for coming by, as you always do. And it is a lot of news from a lot of different places. Obviously, we're going to check in on what went down yesterday in New York. We're going to hear from Mauricio Pochettino. We're going to hear from Tim Ream, Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie. That'll be a part of hour number one. Obviously, we've also got some news overseas to get into that you might have missed in the overnight. Someone is staying that you might have anticipated wasn't when it comes to the Premier League. So that news came out this morning. You've also got some interesting stuff involving players that we got to get into, both male and female. And if you're into alternate selections in the championship coming up in about 2 weeks, the cup the world is chasing after, an economist has come up with his version of what the final is going to look like. We've got Libertadores and Sudamericana from last night, and there were some shocks, and all you have to do is look at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You go to TAC and their night crew, and outside of one of the bigger shocks from last night, fans mad. That's one of the things that TAC does a whole lot. They'll go to the key game and they'll get the man on the street stuff immediately after a match is over. When you have a match flip like the one that they had late last night flip, then you just have mad fans outside, and you're kind of hoping that you don't get into any kind of trouble from the TV police from the words that are said. So that's hour number one. So it's news from around the planet, USMNT, and Premier League, and all the other stuff that we might have missed. Hour number two, Dylan Butler, our friend from MLSsoccer.com, is going to join us. We're going to talk probably about the New York Knicks a little bit. And we're going to talk about what happened this past weekend. Is a result an indictment on one team or both teams, one more than another, just to kind of run through what happened in the last weekend of Major League Soccer before this break coming up. And then we are efforting after 10:30, our friend Gabe Schrei, because there's news out of MLS Next Pro that we need to get into. And, of course, it happened after we went off the air yesterday. Carolina Core blew up their front office. And it was an email that I got. Morning, Alex. An email. When did it show up in my mailbox? It was not there because that's the wrong category. So I'm going through all of my emails yesterday, and then at 11:35, literally right after the show's off the air, you get this email from Carolina Core out of MLS Next Pro Morning Ricky. Carolina Core FC announced the reorganization within the club's sporting staff focused on the organization's long-term vision, future direction. 4 members of the sporting staff will leave. Andy Williams, assistant GM and head scout. Amado Guevara, assistant coach. Donovan Ricketts, head coach. Eddie Pope, chief sporting officer. So they literally blew up their entire front office. Sporting officer, AGM, lead assistant, head coach, and your head scout. Out the door. Got that yesterday at 11:35. Megan Oglesby, the principal investor in Carolina Core, came out with a statement. Jake Davis, who served as the goalkeeper coach and analyst, is now the interim. And the chief of staff for Carolina Core and Carolina Soccer Ventures in High Point, North Carolina, got a quick email from me yesterday afternoon while we were out trying to do meetings and things. And so we reached out to Carolina Core and wanted to see if they wanted to come on this morning to let us know about the season to date, the dissatisfaction involved, and the decision to not just send a coach on their way, but top down, chief sporting officer, AGM and head scout, lead assistant, head coach, all gone. They deferred and they wanted to focus on their search for a new head coach. And then when that was calmed down and that was in place, then they would reconsider the idea about coming on the show to discuss. So we reached out to Core yesterday. They were like, we need to focus on some things. And when those are settled, then we can circle back. Gabe Schrei, our MLS Next Pro, one of our MLS Next Pro gurus and the voice for Chattanooga FC, is in that part of the planet for an entirely different reason. He landed there late last night, early this morning. And I'm like, where are you at 10:30 and beyond? And so if we can catch up with Gabe in Greensboro, we'll catch up with Gabe in Greensboro at 10:30, and we will find out what his thoughts were, because the last match that this group had for Carolina Core was the matchup against Chattanooga in Fort Finley that they lost 1-0 this past weekend, that also had the hour-plus rain delay attached to it, and it had the flooded Fort Finley field. I couldn't think of anything that AstroTurf rhymed with F. But he was the last one to see this group of Carolina Core as a part of Chattanooga FC doing their radio play-by-play. So wanted to catch up with Gabe about Core. Wanted to catch up with him actually about Chattanooga FC as well, considering that the announcement was made that they're going to be playing some special dates over at the new baseball stadium up the freeway, out of downtown and up the freeway. So I wanted to catch up with him on a couple of different things. But, yeah, Carolina Core blew up their Big Four yesterday in their front office. So we wanted to catch up with Gabe and find out what his thoughts were about that. So that's the show this morning, and anything else that comes across our bow as we get ready for anything and everything going on here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out, as you always do. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com, as they suggest for us. Starting our day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community. Showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy body, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. When you get promoted, you kind of have a little bit of time to yourself. You can sit there and you go, well, you know what? We're going to party a little bit. Such was the case at Hull City. And you get the standing of it's like the royal presentation, when king and queen get married, or there's a royal wedding, and you see them come out the second floor patio and the big glass windows and the glass doors and everything, and everybody comes outside and they stand on the patio, and it's like, and they wave at you and go, hey, and you get a microphone. They had that at Hull City, and the head coach, Sergei Yakirovich, was asked to speak to the throngs below about what it was like to have survived everything in the championship this year in EFL. So here was Sergei Yakirovich's response to the Q&A that was on the patio overseeing a bunch of Hull City fans yesterday.
I have to tell something, you guys. I only had one task before the season, to stay in championship. I failed. We go to Premier League.
Sergei Yakirovich, he had one task. He was supposed to stay in the championship, and he failed. He apologized for not keeping them in the EFL championship. So good on Sergei Yakirovich. But for those of you that may not know the story, here's what Hull had to go through this year, or Hull City, because the owners at one point wanted to just change the last name and change everything and just be Hull and piss off everybody else. And then they went on a big losing streak, and fans started protesting. And then they were like, yeah, we need to just stay Hull City. So you end up with Southampton, Spygate, all the things. Owner threatens the lawsuit if they lose, all that stuff. Players are going to Vegas. Yakirovich is like, nah, I'm staying at home. I'm going to be with my family in Croatia. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's not for me. So all of that stuff Jakirovic had won titles in Bosnia and Croatia before a spell in Turkey at the end of last year. He was also the head coach at Dinamo Zagreb when Bayern beat the pants off of him 9-2. He was the head coach at Dinamo Zagreb for that game. He was sacked a couple days after. So he goes to England, he goes to Hull, and you end up with a transfer embargo in the summer because that meant that you could only get free transfers and loans because of late payments to other clubs. Sound familiar? So Hull City's not paying their bills. Jakirovic comes in to be the head coach. He can only build on frees and loans. They were in promotion competition. They were right there the entire season. And so they avoid relegation last day of last year with a draw at Portsmouth. The head of recruitment was appointed weeks later, watched that match at Fratton Park, and he's like, what have I gotten myself into? And here's a guy who's, north of 50 years in the sport, in Martin Hodge. And he's like, man, what have I gotten myself into? So he brings in John Egan, Ollie McBurney, who's almost turned into a bit of a hired gun. And so you go through all of this, all of that stuff. Your owner's not paying his bills. You got to go through frees and loans. You bring in this motley crew, a bunch of mutts. They're the 6, which was decided on the last day. And then they make it into the tournament. They make it into the promotion playoff. And then you win, you keep winning, and you end up getting the Duke late by Ollie McBurney. And apparently now Troy Deeney has to get a tattoo of Ollie McBurney somewhere on his person for them winning and getting promoted. If you missed that exchange on CBS Sports on Golasso Network as a part of their coverage of the championship final, yes, Troy Deeney now has to get a tattoo of Ollie McBurney and put it on his person. So that was a pretty decent piece of TV. But yes, you win, you come in as the 6, you go through all of this ish. You're promoted to the Premier League. You can say whatever the heck you want. And Sergei Jakirovic did exactly that. That's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. As always, they start your day with the most important story. We start your day with the most important stories in the game. They start their right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy-bodied notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. All right, yesterday, I don't know if you know this, but yesterday in New York City, there was this thing on a rooftop that we researched out to kind of figure out what the backdrop was going to be for this particular announcement. It is now officially official that the roster is what the roster is, at least until June 1st. All the leaks have been leaked. It's now official. And there you are. Update this morning, Jeremy Frimpong got left out of the Netherlands World Cup squad. We'll get to that in a bit. So the 26-man roster plus a couple extras has been named. You had the pomp and circumstance. It wasn't just pomp. It wasn't just circumstance. It was both. Matching blazer pant combos with white T-shirts, and the keepers we know are wearing the electric green jerseys and the electric green get-ups. For the record, I did not watch it. I was in a car and kind of took the word for everybody that this event was in fact going to happen. And so it did. It happened yesterday. And so now you have 13 players who were part of the squad who got to the round of 16 back in 2022. 13 taking part for the first time. And obviously you got your headliners that are there. Pochettino admitted after the match, after the pomp and circumstance, when he had the press conference, that some of the decisions were difficult to make. Here is part of that conversation that he had with the assembled media about the process, courtesy of our friends at U.S. Soccer and Veritone. Mauricio Pochettino yesterday after the TV lights were dimmed.
I think it was the day before that to announce the roster. because we were with all the information in the last few weeks, working in different things, and then the last day, in the last moment, we decide. I think we have an idea. It's not that we change 20 players, but I think we were seeing, analyzing, and assess all the situations, and we decided 26 players on the roster.
We'll go here again, the front row. Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Mauricio, you mentioned the last-minute decisions. You had some players that were dealing with injuries in the lead-up to the decision. How much did that factor into your decisions, if any?
Well, I think it's like another coaching staff in the rest of the national team. We're doing the same. We were all thin scenes, observe all that is going on, situation, thinking in all the aspects with the advice of the performance and the medical staff, things like this. And then, of course, obviously that is my assessment in how to get the best balance, or to find the best balance in the 26, to have the balance and to be the right players, and the right player, the best player, to make the roster. But yes, the most difficult thing is painful. It's painful because I really know what it means to be out of the roster. During my career, when I was a player in 1994, that was the World Cup year in USA. I was out. Nearly, I was so close, and then in 1998 the same, and then I wait to 10 years after. That was from the first to the World Cup in Japan and Korea in 2002. And finally, I made the roster. No, that is why I know how painful. Was so painful for me, to make the decision. But that is my job. It's not only to dictate in the way that we are going to play, dictate in the way that we want to be, all together, and but also it's the decision like this, is to make the roster 26. Always painful, because before player we are person, and we care about the human being, and always is difficult.
Before player, we are a person. Basically, it's you're a person first when it comes to delivering news and that kind of stuff, because that was also part of the dynamic yesterday. But Mauricio Pochettino knows what it means to not be named. He knows what it means to be named. And they had an idea, and obviously they monitor injuries and such when it came to determining the roster. And obviously Tanner Tessman is the main example in all of that. When you look at the article that was written by Jeff Carlisle after the roster was named, Tessman was the one name that was mentioned. And there was, in this press conference yesterday, a line of questioning having to do with Tanner Tessman and such. So it was listed by Carlisle as a revelation that Tanner Tessman was not named. Lyon shut Tessman down, according to Carlisle, for the last several weeks of the club season due to what manager Paulo Fonseca called a muscle strain, quotation mark. Expectation was Tessman would be able to recover in time. Pochettino opted to leave him off the roster. And then Carlisle continues and says, rather than replacing Tessman with another central mid, such as Aiden Morris, Pochettino opted for Joe Scally, 10 defensive players in total, making the final squad. Asked about it, he says, I think it's important you need to see the roster trying to provide the right balance, of course. It's important to have bodies enough in the center of the field, but the center back. Midfield options, Berhalter, Adams, McKinney, Roldan. That's the rest of your central midfield. And then obviously, Ricky, as you mentioned, Diego Luna. A lot of folks mentioned Diego Luna, frankly. With Diego Luna not being a part of this roster. Danny eating bagels tonight. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. This is the first time that Danny's eating bagels on the show. So welcome aboard. But yes, Diego Luna, another one of the names. He'd been viewed as a favorite, especially you go back to the Gold Cup in 25. Form, health of others. You bring in Brendan Aronson, Gio Reyna, Alejandro Zendejas, Malik Tillman, Tim Weah. 137 minutes for Reyna. If you missed it, go back Monday at the end of the show, last half hour, starting in your timeline about an hour 25 in. Matty Cruz joined Bart Keeler, and they went Pierce Sixer on the roster choices. So I'd go back and listen to that. And Diego Luna was one of the Diego Luna Gio Reyna discussion was a part of it. 137 minutes, 8 appearances, start of the calendar year. And so that was why it was Reyna in and not Luna. You look at that 26, and then you have 3 that are being brought in just in case. Forwards, once again, Balogun, Haji Wright, Ricardo Pepi. Pepi had 19 in all comps for PSV in the Netherlands. But once again, the ground rules, as we have been mentioning all week. Roster does not become official till it is submitted to FIFA. Deadline is Monday. Once the list is submitted, injured players can be replaced on the roster until 24 hours before the opening match against Paraguay on June 12 at SoFi. So they have until June 11 to monitor health and welfare and then sit there and go, nah, and then you got to make a choice. So official roster submitted to FIFA June 1st. You have another 10 days to figure out the health of people. Then June 12, once again, that's when you're locked in. Injured players replaced on the roster until 24 hours before the opening match. Paraguay, June 12, SoFi. If Tim Ream plays against Paraguay, 38 years, 250. Oldest to play for the U.S. at a World Cup. Fernando Clavijo was 37, 162. Oldest player named to a roster, Frank Moniz at 38, 272 in 1950. Paraguay, Australia in Seattle at Lumen. Back at SoFi against Turkey on decision day, June 25th. Warm-up matches, Senegal and Charlotte on Sunday. Germany in Chicago, June 6th. Maddie will be in Chicago for that match. Just to kind of give you an idea as to how crazy things are going to be, Maddie's going to be in Chicago for that match for us. So that's kind of a tease to our World Cup coverage. Maddie's going to be in Chicago for the goodbye. So that's your rundown of the roster. No shocks and surprises. Brady, Friesen, Turner, and net. Arfston, Dest, Freeman, McKenzie, Ream, Richards, Jedi, Miles Robinson, good for Miles. Joe Scally, Austin Trusty on defense. Midfielders, Adams, Berhalter, McKinney, Roldan. Attacking midfielders and wingers, Aronson, Pulisic, Reyna, Tillman, Weah, Zendejas. Strikers, Balogun, Pepi, and Wright. And like I said, we do have another couple of players that have been added. Andrew Rick was part of the discussion, and keeper, just to have folks around. So now that they're down here at Trilith and over at the Arthur M. Blank U.S. Soccer Arthur M. Blank National Training Center, they're here for the remainder of the week just to get acquainted. And so you'll have a lot of folks that will be down in Fayetteville and down in Trilith off the Parkway, catching up with the U.S. men's national team. And we'll keep you posted as to what's going on down there. Now, other players and folks that were asked about things when it came to the post shiny lights and red camera lights and all that kind of stuff. Questions were asked to Tim Ream and Christian Pulisic about when did it really feel real that you were a part of this squad and that you're going to be playing in a World Cup that just happens to be in your home country. Once again, courtesy of our friends at U.S. Soccer and Veritone, Tim Ream and Christian Pulisic.
For me, it started to feel real at the turn of the new year. Once the groups got sorted out in December and announced, and then as the new year turned, that's for me, that's when it became okay. It's on our doorstep now, and the seeing all the different branding and things that are being put up around the country. It's made it that much more real in the past couple of weeks.
I think I've kind of felt it on the horizon. Obviously, you're focusing on what you're doing at your club, but I'd say once I got here and kind of was with the team and felt these fans and the support around and the buzz around the World Cup is, I guess, when I really started to feel it, I guess, if I had to pick a moment.
Question for both of you. Obviously, second World Cup for both of you. But when you got the word that you were on the team, what was the overriding emotion? And that these last few weeks had some stress involved just in the lead up to this announcement.
I'm usually a pretty cool customer, but yeah, there was definitely some anxiety, some nerves, going on in the last couple of weeks. But it's one of those that when you want something so bad and you want to be a part of something that's much bigger than yourself, that tends to happen. So definitely a lot of. For me, I'm not overly emotional, but it was definitely a relief, and there was a little bit of quivering for sure with my family when I found out.
Yeah, I mean, he said it. We want this so bad, so if you're not a little bit nervous, you don't feel it a little bit, you don't care. So we care so much, and yeah, it means a lot to us. We want to do our best, represent this country best we can, and yeah, the nerves are there. You get the excitement. You feel those jitters. And now that we're here, hopefully we can just try to live in the moment and do the best we can.
Live in the moment, do the best we can. Christian Pulisic and Tim Ream after the red lights stopped yesterday for the Made for TV event on a rooftop on Pier 17 on South Street. Then Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie were asked about positions where they anticipated they might be playing, the variety of places they might be playing, considering how Mauricio Pochettino appreciates diversity and multi-talented individuals. Hey, I need you to play here. Okay. And also the idea and the question about what it has been like to have Mauricio Pochettino as their manager going into this World Cup, through this World Cup cycle, now heading into the World Cup that's a little bit more than 2 weeks away. So Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie on those questions in New York yesterday afternoon, once again, courtesy of our friends at U.S. Soccer and Veritone.
I mean, I think my mentality and the experiences I've had throughout my career, I think I'm just someone that any way I can help the team, I'm willing to do it. And whether that's, called upon to play as an 8, which is a position I do prefer, or called as a right wing back or a striker or a center back or a goalkeeper or even just supporting from the sideline, I think obviously whatever it is, I forgot striker too, yeah. And whatever it is, I think I'll be prepared and be able to adjust, because I think that's just the type of player I am, and whatever the coach needs, I'll be there to help out.
Hi, guys. A question for both of you. Mauricio's been in charge of the team for a while now. Can you talk about when you first met him and how the reception was for him and his style, and how he has come and involved and adjusted as he spent more time here in the United States and obviously with the team?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, because it's probably, I can't speak for him, but it's probably a unique transition to go from club football where you work with a team every single day to only having 5 international windows a year to try and get these players to understand how I want to play, how I act, what he wants from the players, just those relationships. And I think a tournament like Gold Cup, for instance, which I played in, and you spend 40 some odd days together, you really get an understanding of one another and what he looks for. But he's helped our team tremendously. I think he's changed the culture of the way that we approach things. And I think having someone that's a foreigner to our country, but not a foreigner to the game of football, because he's been around it, played it at such a high level, coached at such a high level, we really lean on him for his experiences. So I think it's been a very positive assignment.
Over here. Question for both of you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't able to be at Gold Cup, so obviously I've had shorter experiences with him. But I think it's kind of like what he said, bringing a different mindset, bringing a culture to the group. His South American mentality. He loves to be feisty, be very close together with the guys, and I think ultimately he's benefited our team in many ways, but I think mostly in a sense of making sure that everyone knows that day in and day out in training you have to compete for your spot, and nothing is solidified, nothing is safe, and everyone here has an opportunity. So, yeah.
Everyone here has an opportunity. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, and Tim Ream, and Mauricio Pochettino in the press conferences yesterday after the made-for-TV event where everyone was announced. So now they're down here and they get serious, and they're going to be practicing here before they head to Charlotte, and then they're going to be practicing more before they head to Chicago, and then it's on, which is really wild to say. 2 weeks, basically. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. You're looking at 15 days. 15 days before the World Cup starts, which is incredibly crazy to think about. So that's how the United States has navigated the made-for-TV event, the roster being named, and now it's on. A couple of other teams have had some other news and notes. One of them out of Nashville, and it was not good news. It was not good news. If you are a fan of Nashville and Nashville SC, you got news yesterday that Warren Madrigal is no longer a part of the Costa Rica national team. Madrigal, and this is from our friend Valer Shabila up in Nashville. So he reported it yesterday. It was last night. Madrigal dropped from the Costa Rican national team due to disciplinary issues. Alejandro Braun and Kenneth Vargas also dropped, released by their club Alajuelense as well. A lot of speculation, but the Costa Rican Federation did not release any details. Braun was the first to be dropped. Madrigal and Vargas followed after further investigation. Quoting from the release from the FCRF, quote, the FCRF reiterates that discipline and respect for the rules are the fundamental pillars of all our national team. So as we go down this rabbit hole involving Warren Madrigal, do we have any other added details as of this morning? And coming from Kevin Jimenez, who is a national and international writer in Costa Rica, 52,000 followers plus on the 280-character app. So he reported after the event last night and the release of Warren Madrigal that Madrigal was separated for changing rooms without permission. That is what Batista communicated to him, according to Kevin Jimenez's sources. So you have that in addition to information from Ferlin Fuentes involving Alejandro Braun. It was, according to Jimenez, several players involved in an altercation in San Pedro where Braun's vehicle ended up with bullet impacts, and this is the direct translation. Federation investigating those involved. Further withdrawals from the call-up are not ruled out. So that is that's the news involving Alejandro Braun and the reports involving Warren Madrigal. So looks like it's two separate things, but Warren Madrigal no longer a part of the Costa Rican national team, and Alejandro Braun also no longer a part, and Kenneth Vargas no longer a part of the Costa Rican national team going forward here in 26, 2 weeks away from the World Cup. So news attached to Nashville SC. That happened late last night, and we had our update there a bit this morning. Trying to see if there's any other news when it comes to World Cup sides. Not at the moment, so we'll go to this other piece of news that we had. And, everybody is trying to figure out, okay, who's going to win. I don't do the pool thing I don't do brackets a whole lot anymore. But apparently, there are things that that folks can do when it comes to filling out brackets and such. Don't know if you saw this, but a German economist who has successfully predicted the last 3 World Cup winners has chosen the Netherlands as his favorite for the tournament. Joachim Clement's calculations, and this is from our friends at Route 1. Economic, demographic, and geographic variables with sporting data successfully predicted Germany as the winners in 14, France in 18, Argentina in 22. His model looks at GDP per capita, population size, average national temperature, and accounts for about 45% of luck and random fluctuations. In his write-up, by the way, which you can find here, I'll go ahead and post I'll post the link if you want to dive in and read Clement's evaluations. It is a massive link, and it is in the Twitch pitch, and it's a big honking link. So I'm not going to flash it on the screen because it won't all show up. So Clement projects the Netherlands will defeat Spain in the semis and meet Portugal, who he believes will beat England to reach the final. The write-up concludes, quote, that the model does not predict either the Netherlands or Portugal to be exciting to watch, suggesting both nations will be tactically rigid, physically spent, and naturally risk-averse. In order to make the final, Clement's model also projects a mundane final, the Netherlands winning 1-0. Clement recognizes the predictions are, quote, very much tongue-in-cheek, and acknowledges, quote, that neither of these teams features typically among the conventional favorites to win. So, a German economist, Joachim Clement on investing. He's on Substack, by the way. If you want to follow along, he starts out his article, and this is back in April, by the way, when he had all this figured out. When he wrote the article on his Substack, he was wearing his 1954 retro German football shirt. So he's got it right the last 3 times in a row. And it is literally a PDF on the whole thing. Panmure Liberum, delivering excellence. Multi-asset strategies. And so he's won the last 3. During a World Cup, the U.S. stock market underperforms by 3.9% compared to normal periods. Markets in countries that win a match outperform the next day. No real surprise. 3 biggest surprises for him: Japan, one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history, an all-European semi, and an unlikely champion. It is basically an 18-page document. Here's the shorter version. Instead of clicking on that massive link that I gave you, Morning Robes. So here's the short version. That's a lot better to click onto than the link that was provided by our friends at Route 1 when you go diving into the whole thing. Panmure Liberum is his tongue-in-cheek deal. So group stage. Let's just go ahead and follow through. So group stage, go to page 7. Group A, for example, South Korea favored. Let's see what he says about. Let's get to the. He goes to Group D, most evenly matched. In truth, every one of the 4 teams can come first in the group. All of them can come last. Man's got a future in punditry. Depends on the form of the day. Australians will summon their cricket spirit and win the group in the same way they win the Ashes, mostly due to the ineptitude of their opponents, and if that isn't enough, then cheating. I would have guessed, as one of the host nations, I would have guessed that the U.S. would make it into the top 2 in the group, but it turns out the host nation advantage is declining and likely to be even less pronounced in this World Cup, which is split between 3 countries spread over an entire continent. I don't think this is going to be a problem in a football-mad country like Mexico, but I do think that the U.S. and Canada will not get the host nation support that past hosts have enjoyed, so the U.S. is in 3rd. Turkey makes it 2nd place into the group. Wow. So he's got the U.S. as 3rd in the group. 43% likelihood that they would be in the top 2. So then the last of 32. Germany, he says, is going to beat the U.S. Portugal over Ivory Coast. France over Sweden. Spain over Austria. Belgium over Mexico. England over Norway. Mexico's defeat against Belgium, one of the more heartbreak for its fans since even in the expanded tournament, the country still misses out on its 5th game in a tournament. Canada should beat Czechia. Netherlands likely to win. Ecuador, Senegal. And so now, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and Japan. He already has Japan beating Brazil through his math. Argentina beating Uruguay. So he's got Brazil getting knocked out in the first knockout stage matches. Japan's on a real run, he says. England and Japan in the quarters. He's got 4 European teams once again in the semis, and so you end up with the 2 1-0s and the 1-0. So knockout stage, he's got Germany winning, France winning, Germany and France in the round of 16. Netherlands beating Canada in the round of 16, so he has Canada making it one more match than the United States. Croatia, Spain, Australia, Belgium, Japan, Senegal, South Korea, England, Argentina, Turkey, Switzerland, Portugal. He has Portugal beating Argentina, by the way, to get to the England match in the semifinals. So he's got Argentina making it to the quarters. And so he has polymarket predictions in here, but it's like a 16, 18-page document. He's got the Netherlands winning the World Cup. So Panmure Liberum is where he's got it. So that's your deep dive into an economist's view of the World Cup. An alternative or an alternate selection into the World Cup in and of itself. So that's what you're looking at when it comes to the World Cup. As we always say, take the information for what it is and go from there. A couple of pieces of news in England that we got to discuss this morning. We were discussing yesterday about the future possibly of Nuno. And West Ham has announced that Nuno is staying. John Bruin at The Guardian. He's going to continue as West Ham manager as they seek a return to the Premier League. Departure had been expected only for a change of heart at the boardroom level. Daniel Kretinsky, the Czech billionaire and the second largest shareholder, believed to have wanted Nuno to stay, with David Sullivan, the largest shareholder, less certain. Wednesday morning, confirmation Nuno's contract contained a clause allowing his sacking without paying compensation. West Ham saying that they held meetings. Pleased to confirm that Nuno has expressed his continued commitment to the club as we have to him. Highly motivated for the challenge of guiding West Ham back to the top flight. That must be the unquestionable goal for next season, end quote. Scotty Tuhati and Gary O'Neill, Scott Parker, the former West Ham captain who parted ways with Burnley once they were relegated. They were the two that were considered. But Nuno's going to stay. But the biggest thing is that West Ham is going to have to find basically 150 million pounds of outs. Because they still owe a lot of funds on previous transfers. As a part of Wednesday's statement, the club announced they would reduce season ticket prices by up to 30%. Kretinsky, by the way, who owns Sparta Prague and the Royal Mail, lined up to increase his stake and match Sullivan's control. Kretinsky and Sullivan poised to buy a portion of the Gold family's 25% left by the late co-owner David. So London taxpayers, because of relegation, have to pick up £2.5 million of rent, because that was the rental rate on London Stadium. One rate in the Premier League, one rate in the Championship, £2.5 million gap. London taxpayers, you're on the hook for it. But Nuno is staying. And because you've got to find probably 150 million pounds of outs, that's probably why, considering that would have to be something else that you would have to invest in, would be a new manager, and you don't want to do that. So West Ham standing pat with a manager. Keep an eye on all of the outs and who gets sold. And it's going to be a bunch of big names like Jared Bowen and Tati Castellanos. Jarrett's ears just perked up. A lot of the big names are going to be on the block. West Ham is having to come up from the Championship to try and get back into the Premier League. So there's that this morning from West Ham. So it was that was not necessarily a surprise, shall we say. But when you see it on paper, you're kind of going, okay, and we see where they're coming from. Speaking of Spurs, the team that was not sent to the EFL Championship because of their own efforts, the Lewis family came out with a statement. This is from PA Media. Lewis family promised to rebuild trust with Spurs supporters, said they'll bring about meaningful change after back-to-back 17th place finishes in the Premier League. Fans have once again been very, very angry at ENIC, the majority owner run by the Lewis family, and the chief exec, Vinay Venkatesham, after 12 months of change. Daniel Levy stepped down. Remember, back in September, he was invited to step down. Maybe you should step down. We're going to invite you to step down. What's this envelope? It's an invitation. Open it. Step down. Okay. Finishing 17th this and last season does not reflect the stature or potential of this football club. Bitterly disappointed, share your frustration. You and we expect more than this. We know this must never happen again. Statement, statement, statement. We are not selling the club. We are all in. We are investing in it. You will see more of this in the coming months. We care deeply about Spurs. The rebuilding the club needs and you deserve has begun. Change required is deep. It'll take time and commitment. Change is happening. We know that actions will speak louder than words. I'm still trying to figure out how you don't have a sponsor on your building. I don't think that's a big question to ask. I really don't. How is it that you don't have a sponsor on your barn? Seriously. Brand spanking shiny new stadium and you don't have a sponsor. Morning Badger. Summer break. Welcome back. How you don't have a sponsor on your barn, I have no idea. Literally, shiny new building. You move over from White Hart Lane. You build this thing, this massive thing, and you don't have a corporate sponsor. How is that humanly possible? You look at 17th and 17th, and you would sit there and go, okay, yeah, that's a good reason. But still, how did you not have a sponsor going into this building? Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, presented by, Charmin's Pies or whatever. How do you not have a sponsor going in? Badger as a Spurs fan wants ENIC to sell. Top 5 to almost relegated 2 years in a row. Proof positive of that. Daniel Levy gets the envelope. What's this? That's an invitation. The invitation to leave. You have all of this investment, and it's and Jarrett may shoot me for this, but it's almost the same approach as Celtic. You have all of this money, you just throw money at the problem, and it doesn't work. But with Celtic, you're in the Scottish Premiership, where really you're only fighting against Rangers and this past season against Hearts. Where you feel like if you throw money at the problem and you survive the problem, hey, that was the solution. Instead of looking at the individuals that are there and their price points and actually trying to build around a philosophy, which I think you had under which I think you had under Ange, but you panicked. You freaked out. And now you're in that cycle of managers and you're trying to figure out how to calm things down. If you were calm in the first place and let Ange Postecoglou cook a little bit, I don't think that you would be in this place and in this position. I don't think you would. But that's just me. But you've thrown money at the problem, you survived the problem. Hey, that's the solution. No, it's not. That's true. ENIC doesn't throw money at anything other than buying out managers. Yes, recently that is true. And from what I've talked about with other Spurs fans, some were just to the point. It's like, look, go ahead. We need to go to the championship, and it'll prove a point, and then they can really blow things up and start over. All the high-priced talent that doesn't mesh. But I still think that if you had let Ange do Ange things instead of freaking out, then I think that you would have. I think that you might be at least better off in a position that you're in. So keep an eye on Spurs. And I know that ENIC and Daniel Levy driven people crazy for decades. And Joe Lewis. So keep an eye on Spurs. Keep an eye on West Ham. My apologies to those of you who are fans of the Hammers that live in England who have to be part of that bailout of £2.5 million for the rent. So we'll see what happens in the offseason. Starting now, basically. And we do have some gossip, rumor, and innuendo to get into after 10:30. We'll get into that, and we'll discuss all of the gossip that's out there, all the reports that are out there, and all of the stuff in the Copas that happened last night. We got to get into that, too, because there were some upsets. And like I said, when you go to Teisei and you get to watch them on Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here, you do get to see the madman on the street stuff, and you saw that late last night. This was something that kind of flew below the radar. Flown. Alexia Putellas, after the expiration of her contract, is leaving Barcelona. There's a link to London City, one of many clubs who are interested. 32 years old, 14 years at Barca. 233 goals, 507 appearances after joining from Levante in 2012, aged 8. London City, owned by Michelle Kang, heavily linked. Everyone, I would imagine, should be linked. And legitimately, I'm just gonna say this, and Suzanne Rack gives us the notes from The Guardian, by the way. London City made no secret. Adrian Maestres, a Spanish coach, in place. Former Barcelona player Jana Fernandez is already there. Mapi Leon believed to be joining. Let's just say, there's a club in particular. It's kind of starting in 28. I'm kind of sliding to my left so you can see the scarf in general. That scarf there. Maybe. Just saying. You sign her, you loan her out, you bring her in. I'm just saying, maybe. Just food for thought. I have no basis of fact. But there is a team that is going to be assembling a roster for 2028 launch. This happens to be based here at SDH HQ. Maybe just a thought. He said, thinking out loud. Could you imagine? Could you imagine bringing an athlete like that to the table as a part of a launch? So, just saying, food for thought. Like I said, it's out there in the ether. Just wanted to say something. Said my piece, floated it out there. Pie in the sky kind of stuff. So, Alexia Putellas right now being sought after, looked at. London City, Michelle Kang, which could be a pipeline to Washington. It's there. Like I said, I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there. No, nothing. Like I said, no basis in fact. But I just wanted to sit there and go, hey, you know what? Look who's available. And obviously, like, it literally is just, it's one of those where you're like, you know, I feel like Andy Rooney all of a sudden. Did you ever notice? Did you ever notice when countries are available and players are available, they can play anywhere now? Just thinking. Like I said, I'm literally just putting that out there into the ether, wishing that it could happen. Could you imagine, like, the first player acquisition for that particular club being, an individual like that? That wouldn't stink. Hour number 2. Hi, how you doing? I'm John. We got stuff to get into here, obviously, and we're looking at Libertadores. We're looking at Sudamericana. We're looking at news. We're looking at things. Dylan Butler said to join us in a little bit to discuss Major League Soccer from the last weekend as we get ready for the World Cup break. Fasten your seatbelts, people. World Cup break's not really going to be a break. It literally is just going to end up being, get locked in, time to sprint, roll, go. Everybody says, yeah, the World Cup break. It's not going to be a break. You're going to be moving that much faster in this World Cup window. Literally, you're going to be moving that much faster. Hey, there's a game. Hey, here's this. What about this? Hey, what about this? Literally, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be chasing after everything. And apparently, according to our friends at Gimme Sport, Spurs is chasing after 6 new signings. 6. De Zerbi's looking for a lot. Already have agreements in place for Robertson and Andy Robertson and Marcos Senesi. John Stones, Bart Verbruggen, Jan-Paul Van Hecke, Carlos Baleba, James Trafford, Savino. All those names are out there for Spurs. Throw all these dudes up against throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what happens. That is the part of the Palace intrigue that is attached. So we'll see about all these names, where they end up lining up, all the things, and going forward from there. I'm looking at Libertadores and Sudamericana, and last night was the 26th. So it was round 6 last night. And the surprises we were talking about in Libertadores, you end up with Flamengo in Group A. They ran the table. The Estudiantes ended up second in Group A. Independiente Medellin is third, and it looks like they might be working their way through as one of the best positioned third-place teams. Cusco 0-1-5, they're done. Group B, Coquimbo Unido in a busy group. Coquimbo Unido, Tolima, and Nacional, they all made their way through. Universitario and catching up with Nino tomorrow in the draw with Tolima. When you had a chance, that's going to be rough. Out of Libertadores, because you drew when you needed a win, and if you had won, you would be second in the division on goal difference. And somebody would be the hard luck out. It's Universitario because they didn't win last night. Group C, Rivadavia ran the table in the group, didn't lose once. Bolivar ahead of Fluminense on goal difference. La Guaira out. Libertadores, Universidad Católica in, Cruzeiro in, Boca 7 points after drawing Cruzeiro. Barcelona 3 points out. Libertadores, Group E, Corinthians, Platense, Santa Fe, Peñarol, 3 points, 0-3-2 in the group stage. Group F, Cerro Porteño, Palmeiras, Sporting Cristal at 6 points, Junior Barranquilla at 4. They lost 3 in the middle. Liga de Quito, Mirasol. This was the crazy part. Liga de Quito last night, 12 points. Mirasol, 12 points. Lanús at 9, always ready at 3. Rosario Central, Independiente del Valle, they were in. UCV at 6 points. Libertad 0-5. They play tonight to get things rolling. Now, Time to discuss Major League Soccer and find out what's going on in the mind of Dylan Butler. What is going on in the mind of Dylan Butler on a Wall Pass Wednesday? I imagine the New York Knickerbockers probably are part of the what's going on in the brain.
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. It's also 8 lacrosse broadcasts
There
over
you
the
go.
course of 3 days. So I did
Nice.
2 yesterday, 3 today, 3 tomorrow.
Mm.
So I did this whole I don't know if it would, let me see if I can show you on this
Yeah,
screen.
hit me.
So this is Nassau lacrosse playoffs semifinals, 4 classifications.
Okay.
So, that's 8 games, right? 16 coaches.
Yes.
So I had to have like this whole checklist here.
Yes, there you go.
So I'm like,
I see some gaps.
call, headshots.
Oh, I see
sharps.
gaps. I see gaps.
So yeah, a few of them. Yeah. Well, I still have games tomorrow. So.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, wait a minute. If there was one dude that was 1 for 3, where you didn't have call or headshot, but you might have had stats and roster.
Yeah, I'm not calling out the one coach. I spoke to 15. I was in contact with all 16. I spoke with 15 of the 16 coaches.
Okay.
The one coach said to me last night, "Hey, I could talk tonight." I said, "Well, I have 2 games tonight, so I can't."
That's kind of hard. I'm kind of working. You can watch.
But the good thing is, all the games are at Hofstra. Nice press box, good facilities. So,
yes, and so that is. It's
so
always, yes.
While there was a roster reveal apparently at Pier 17, I was just revealing like who was winning faceoffs and who had the assisted goals and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what the background was going to look like yesterday before at Pier 17. So like if you stood on the roof and we were like, yeah, the way that we think the stage is going to be lined up. And I didn't watch it yesterday because I had, much like you, I had other business to pay attention to.
Sure.
Figured it was going to be the Brooklyn Bridge and the Statue of Liberty behind and all that kind of stuff. The only thing missing maybe was the fife and drum for the whole presentation.
Yeah, I was intrigued. I mean, that's Pier 17 probably the best place to do it. I remember I went to a Frank Lampard. I don't know I think it was just a press conference. I think they had already announced his signing.
Okay.
That was in Brooklyn. It was like a pier situation. Like there's like a soccer field there. I think at the time LIU was St. Francis College. One of those two. I think St. Francis College was using it as their home field, which was like super awesome. We had a great backdrop of the New York City skyline. That would have been a cool place as well. But yeah, I mean, I like you said, I didn't see it, but from all accounts, like it visually looked very cool.
Yes, I anticipated as much. But good on you. You had your visuals. You named your 26, and you're off and running. Last weekend, once again in Major League Soccer, there were a couple of matches
off the rails.
Sure, or third rail, or whatever you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, the one
they just one-upped each other though, didn't they, John? Like they were like, that game was crazy, but hang on a second.
Hey,
wait to see what we have in store.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah.
The last crazy game
yes.
on Sunday,
yes.
and it was just Banana Foster's crazy third rail, nutso, Section 8. Corporal
It felt like the next thing to happen was going to be just like started raining frogs or something. Like,
well, you were in South Florida, so
yeah. I mean, it was pouring. It was goals. It was bad defending. It was like there was a lot. There was a lot.
Yes. when you
Probably. Sorry, I don't mean to keep
no.
cutting off, but probably not on like like Waffle House at like 3 a.m. Like there's a lot that's happening.
Crystal. Oh, that'd be amazing. I mean, when you when you gotta have a crystal, you gotta have a crystal. Is it more of an indictment? The last crazy game. We're kind of going backward.
Yeah.
Is that more of an indictment on Philly? Is it more of an indictment on Messi and friends, or is it an equal indictment that the process server in his suit is knocking on a door, going, Mr. Berterame, Mr. Berterame, are you here? Berterame opens the door. The process server hits him with an envelope, and Mr. Carnell, at his press conference, he gets served with an envelope. Is it equally indicting on both? Is it indicting on more than one over the other? What is your thought here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guilty parties. I think neither team defended in any way, shape, or form. If I'm a Canadian national team supporter, I'm getting a little bit nervous about our goalkeeping pool, because neither Maxime Crépeau or Dane St. Clair have
Dane St. Clair
have looked very good.
Oh,
for multiple games now. Yeah, it's it was like pure, like unfiltered MLS after dark, early in the day.
I mean,
madness.
I was explaining this to the boss, and I told her, I said it was like, you remember when the stereotype of when we were in college, and there was always the one dorm room on the floor that had the guys that looked normal, wearing the shorts, they'd wear the golf shirt, they go to class or whatever, at least they looked like they were going to class. But on the weekend, they would be the guys who would have the blow up wading pool in their dorm room and just create this hunch punch they'd go to the store, get all the different fruit, they'd put it in the pool, and they would take all of the different kinds of liquor they had that was there, they would pool it, they would put it into the wading pool. You have this hunch punch, and that's what it was. That hunch punch was what it looked like that game was on. I mean,
maybe they all had it before the game.
I mean, forget the jet fuel that could have been over, that was being deposited on the way into Miami International Airport going over New Stadium. It's just like dumping fuel supplies. Literally, that's what that game looked like for me. It's like Philly's got a lead, and you end up with. I think that Dane St. Clair, frankly, should have gotten a red. We talked about that on Monday, but you end up with a 2-0 lead, a 3-1 lead, then it's 3-3, and then all of a sudden it's like 4-3 and 4-4 with Iloski scoring a PK at 45. It's like, what are you people doing? Do you just want to go to vacation and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, it was like just like a pickup game in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, like we're not wearing shin guards here. Like we're gonna have a little fun, have a little kick around, and whatever happens.
And you end up with 6-4. And the joke that I was making was that Inter Miami won the first set, and then it was time for Philly to serve for the second. But I mean, I look at Philly, and yes, Philly had a lot of absences, and they had 3 call-ups of their big guns from Philadelphia Union 2 with Rick and Sundstrom and LeBlanc, and we knew that was a byproduct of this whole thing. But right now, and I know we've had our discussions about Atlanta earlier in the week too, but Philadelphia right now, bottom of the table,
the only team with single-digit points,
right? And with what we've seen from other clubs to this point of the season, there is a lack of patience. with the gentleman who's dressed a little bit more Natalie attired than the players on occasion on the touchline. And we've seen coaching changes in Austin where they were it's like you lose 5-0, you lose at home to Sporting. Anthony Precourt's like, timeout, we're done, peace out, Boy Scout. Nico Estevez is gone, and you've had Rudstrom go after 14 matches. You've had, I think Montreal was another one that you had, and so.
Well, it always is. But.
And yeah, it's true. The Saputo FC is always a mind of their own, but right now, Philadelphia is standing with Bradley Cornell, and it's with all the young players because of everything that you jettisoned in the offseason. Philadelphia, to me, I don't know how to read. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you wonder, will there be some announcement here during the World Cup break? I mean, that's, we said it, I think last week, it's seemingly the perfect time to make a major move like that, because you do have, like 2 months or a little less than 2 months to just figure it out. Essentially kind of have another preseason. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of teams do that, because it's an unusual break in the season, right? It almost turns into an apertura clausura type of setup. So if you don't do well in the first season, correct things for the second season. So frankly, I'm the other, like Portland is another one, right? We just saw that.
Neville, right?
Yeah, you can't say necessarily surprised by any of those, but maybe surprised that hasn't happened yet in Philadelphia, unfortunately. But
yeah, and you wonder if, with what we've been discussing in the past, is it a financial thing? Are you knowing full well that you have all of this young talent? Are you standing pat, hoping that they develop and they get adjusted to the season? So, the thought bubbles are there for me when it comes to.
But you're losing those guys. Like you're going to lose a Kevin Sullivan pretty quickly. Like it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fine to develop players, sell them on, make a profit, but when there's got to be more investment in a club than just the academy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's like there's different, like the best teams, they they have homegrown talent through their academy. They'll find really good MLS players, either already have them or pick them out. I'm kind of thinking of a Seattle in this situation, and then you do splash the cash, and you do smart moves in Europe to get players. So again, I think the Sounders are right up there. I think at the top of that list, right? Of you've got your core guys, the Roldans and guys like that. You make a big free agent move for a Rusnak, and then you keep getting all these Tacoma guys that seemingly become like club legends.
Yep,
like a Rothrock and such. So
yes, and now
they also do, obviously, Arriaga and other, like they'll develop these players and then they'll also sell them on. So like,
and it's trying to figure out that balance of, okay, are we deep enough in a particular position on the farm where, to use a baseball reference, where we're okay if we move player A on because we have B, C, and D in the pipeline, and we'll be okay as that position continues to develop. And so,
yeah, you can't have all your eggs in one basket. And it seems like, I mean, the other part of it for Philly was, kind of looking on the rocks and finding this 4th division German, but there's only so far you can go in that, right?
Well, yeah, because if you go to beyond the 4th division, 5th division means that they only probably play like Wednesday afternoon at
yeah, because the guy's a bartender,
right? And so he's got to go around his normal hours if you're going to try and find those kinds of those gems below the 4th division. You mentioned Neville in Portland, and class guy as always. It's like I know what the expectation was, and I mean, Phil Neville, he's a mensch. He's gonna say that I didn't do it. Loved my time. Loved all of you guys. Loved the players, but coming out of it on the other side is class. Even if the results weren't there in the Western Conference for him, yes, you'd make the playoffs. You kind of squeak your way in, but this year you're struggling. You're 6 points out of the playoffs right now in the first 14 matches, giving up 2 goals a game. It just wasn't there. I mean, you're 1-6-1 on the road this season to this point, and it seemed like it was time when it came to losing to San Jose, and you're like, yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think part of the other problem for them, right, is like you look at the Cascadia landscape, and for years it was kind of them and Seattle, and then like little brother Vancouver. But in the last couple of years, obviously Vancouver's risen up, and now you've got to battle with both of them rising above you. So like that's not a good look, obviously, either.
No.
So
no.
And it's too proud of a club. It's too really legendary of a club. For many decades, even obviously before MLS, they rightfully expect a team that is going to compete at the top of the league, not for a playoff spot. So, it is very interesting to kind of see, how all of these things pan out with coaching hires. It does appear, though, Columbus is kind of figuring it out, right? Like of all those, like they made a move quickly, and then I mean, who knows? It could be that new coach bounce, but Courtois, and then
bringing back Tim Bezbatchenko for Haslam Holdings. I thought that was an interesting one.
Very.
And so,
I mean, it would appear at least like ahead of the pack in we needed a change. Here's our solution. Like that was pretty quick for them. And, again, they did get some good results so far out of that in the Open Cup and then in league play as well.
Yep. And now that you have the NWSL franchise coming online, Tim Bezbatchenko comes back to help that. But no, that was a sneaky move that we really haven't had time to talk about because of everything else going on. That Tim Bezbatchenko comes back to Haslam Sports Group. And I'm like, okay. And so you're trying to get the band back together to try to, get back to where you once were, Loretta, and we'll see what happens in Columbus. San Diego, I wanted to discuss San Diego FC with you. Mikey Veras, after the match, here's his quote. And when we were reviewing Major League Soccer this past weekend, I went to the post-game press conference quotes, if I could get my tongue to work.
Gotcha.
So Mikey Veras says this. He goes, and this is after the second half, conceding momentum. And then the referee makes 2 yellow cards in 25 minutes on a player who had 2 fouls, and I think the league has to take a serious look at what's happening with our team and across the league because you have multiple teams on 5 red cards, 15 games through a season, and we played 230 or 240 minutes with a player down in a lot of situations that don't look clear and obvious that you should be playing a man down. And we need to do something about that because here we're trying to build football in this country. We want to play football, and to play football, of course, we need to make sure that there's player safety involved. So if there's clear reds, like we have to take care of that. But we also need to play as much 11v11 as possible. When you look around the world, this situation is not happening. And we need to take a close look at that because it's just really unfortunate that not only us, but I think there's some other teams in the league that could be a little bit frustrated with how that's going.
I mean,
was it 5 in a row that they had consecutive red cards?
Yeah. I mean, kind of, I hadn't heard that quote until you just mentioned it. But my first reaction was it's kind of like, sounding almost like old school John McEnroe-esque. Like, listen, like I don't. It's the referees don't have an agenda against San Diego FC. Not that I know of.
Right.
You want to protect players. Well, maybe have your guys stop getting red cards.
Moments of indiscipline, yes.
Like, protect the other team.
Right.
And I think, look, it's like this is one thing we see in all sports, and you and I do multiple sports, but this is a constant. During a game, every referee has their own way to officiate, right?
Yep.
Some say, I'm going to let you guys play a little bit where I don't want to get involved. Others like, listen, I got to get this out early. And then now you know what to expect the rest of the way.
Yep.
Just as you scout teams and their tendencies, the best coaches and managers know what these referees will call, right?
Right. Yep.
Like, listen, and even the officials say it before, like they'll have a meeting with the captains. Listen, guys, I don't want any shirt tugging in the box. If I see that, I'm pointing to the spot. Like, there's a clarity involved there. So there shouldn't be this post-game in frustration, seeming like ambiguity about the collective officiating.
Right.
Like, how these guys operate.
Right.
So it just sounds
sour grapey.
It's sour grapes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it does sound sour grapey. I mean, he does have points about the officiating in general, but the notion of it's you gotta look out for us. But then he sits there and says you got to look out for us, and then for the other teams too.
And also, I don't think the growth of the sport is being stunted by red cards against San Diego FC.
Right. So that's just keep an eye on that with Mikey Veras and their hot start, and then they go and they're below the playoff bar as we go. So how many lacrosse matches do you have? It's 8 in 3 days?
Yeah, did the 2 yesterday, 3 today, 3:30, 5:30, 7:30. 3 tomorrow, 3:30, 5:30, 7:30. I have, let's see if I can lift this up. These are my charts for today.
There you go.
Right. So I got all my information here, the players, all that kind of fun stuff. So, so that's just for today. And then tomorrow we build again, 3 more matches. And then a little break for the weekends. I mean, a break for everything. I'm going to be really confused Saturday. Although looking at my lawn, I think I do know what I'm going to be doing. So,
heartbreaker. So we'll catch up with you on the flip side when it comes to post lacrosse, and we'll roll through all of this. And we got the World Cup and everything. So yeah. So
we do have that.
That world continues to rotate on its axis and careens out of control as it does on a weekly basis. As always, my friend, it's great to see you. And now that you are, it's Varsity Media, or is it someplace else?
It is Varsity Media. It is these matches, however, are on the Varsity Media Pass, so it's behind a paywall.
Yes, you got to love the NFHS in these situations. Yeah, my favorite. We'll see you soon, my friend. Great to catch up with you, and have great calls. We'll see you next week.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
There he goes. Okay. Now, as promised, and we kind of lucked into this. We lucked into this because of what happened yesterday. And for those that might have missed the beginning of the show yesterday, the beginning of the show this morning, because if you missed the beginning of the show yesterday, we were leading into what's happening in New York, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Show ended yesterday. So after the show ended yesterday, we get a note from Carolina Core that Carolina Core, and this is their headline, announced a reorganization within the club's sporting staff focused on the organization's long-term vision and future direction. 4 members of the sporting staff will leave. And this came from Hillary Johnson, Chief of Staff at Carolina Soccer Ventures. 4 sporting staff members who are departing. There was no timetable. It's like, at the end of the week, end of the fiscal, whatever. This is how it was phrased from High Point, North Carolina. The sporting staff members who are departing are, and I'm building up, Andy Williams, assistant GM head scout, Amato Guevara, assistant coach, Donovan Ricketts, head coach, Eddie Pope, chief sporting officer. All 4 out. Club beginning a search for the next head coach in the coming weeks. Jake Davis, who is the keeper coach and analyst, serving as the interim head coach. And like I said, we reached out to Carolina Soccer Ventures and Chief of Staff Hillary Johnson. They deferred until they have their new head coach before coming on to the show to explain what the season has been like to this point and why make this change with 4 of your high-profile individuals at the top of the food chain in Carolina Core. One of ours, we were fortunate enough, as I was piecing things together, I was like, hey, wait a minute. The last game that Carolina Core played with this group was in Chattanooga, and we know part of the family who is in Chattanooga who was calling this match on audio. And for unrelated reason, which we'll get into also, he was heading to Greensboro and got into Greensboro late last night as the Vegas Golden Knights were sweeping Colorado. And I shot him a note as I was piecing together 1 + 1 is like, oh, I know who I can try and find and see if he can talk about it. And so now, fresh from his nap in North Carolina, we go to our Gabe Schrei.
Nap's about right. Look at that camera angle. Check out the ceiling, guys.
Yeah, well, but I mean, you're there. That's all solid. I'm glad that we were able to catch up and be your alarm this morning.
I'm glad to be here.
I mean, that note that came from Core yesterday about 11:35, so it's 23 hours old. That was a bit of a stunner. You kind of thought that something might be going on at some point with maybe the coaching staff. But then you get that email from Carolina Soccer Ventures, and it's bang, 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 all 4, all the way through Eddie Pope out the door. That, to me, was a big stunner with this organization.
I thought they might make up a head coach. I think I've been surprised with the willingness to move on from managers in MLS Next Pro, too. It's more of a global soccer mindset towards your staff. I think you'd probably agree, right? I'm surprised to see clubs move on mid-season, end of the year, first third of the year. And they've done that quite a bit historically already in the early stages of this league, I would call it. It's growing, it's getting legs, and it's becoming stronger and more interesting every week as our soccer war is really heating up. But to see that still a shock to me as an American sports guy. We're used to NBA, MLB, NFL franchises, SEC powerhouses, Big Ten football clubs, Pac-12, rest its soul. They stick with coaches and staff through the season, right? This is just a shock to me still to see this happening multiple times over the course of an MLS Next Pro. It's a very global mindset. I also think it's a shock. You can't overstate the importance of these guys in their career. Eddie Pope is one of the greatest ever, right? In Honduras, what a legend Guevara was. Ricketts, one of the great goalkeepers historically we've ever seen. So to see them clean house, it was a shock to me for them to invest in that staff, I guess, is the first thing I would go back to. That was impressive. That said, we mean business. It didn't work. So money thing. Maybe it's, listen, I'm not getting results and I'm paying for results. We're 15th in the Eastern Conference. See ya. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
One win in your first 11. 1-6-4-1. 8 points, as you mentioned. The only team below you is Messi and Friends 2, who still play at the Erector set. They have not won in their first 11. They're at 4 points. You're 1 point behind FC Cincinnati 2, who've won 3 times this year. They're 3-8. It's like everything's decided for them in 90 minutes. They don't want to go past 90, unlike years past. But you're a win out of 13th. That's where Connecticut United is. From you calling the match on the weekend, what sticks in your brain about core on the field? What were they on the field? It seemed like a lot of times they were, from what I would remember with the Atlanta United 2 matchups, it was very physical. They tried to push the envelope when it came to physicality defensively. And then what they would try to do was, with Anthony Sumo up top, you had a natural power forward, but he didn't act like it 100% of the time. It's like, he's trying to draw fouls and penalties and all this kind of stuff. In your research and then what you've seen with core, how would you break down how they played under Donovan Ricketts in MLS Next Pro?
They entered the match against Chattanooga over the weekend as the second most penalized club in the league, the second most yellow cards, a lot of fouls. So it showed on paper that they're extremely physical. Not just because of that, without even watching tape, watch the highlights. I mean, very, very physical brand of soccer. Unusual. We're not seeing that in MLS so much. We're not seeing that. You see it a little bit in the Division I soccer in America. You don't see it at all in USL. We're seeing a little bit of this in MLS Next Pro. I think as the league develops, we'll see less of that. But really just almost cutthroat physicality brand of soccer. I think the match should have been 3-0 Chattanooga.
Yeah.
It could have been 6-0, 7-0. It was very, very low quality soccer. They struggled defensively. They did create some chances, but it ended at least 3-0. So there was some on my part, to be quite frank. I'm like, this is a hard watch because Chattanooga is creating chances that they should be finishing, and they're not. They've gotten better at that as the year has gone on. I think they continue to improve, but yes, it was not exactly an easy watch from that standpoint. I thought that Caitlin Trowbridge, the referee, especially and she did a wonderful job. It's easy to be a critic, right? I thought she let him play a little too much. That's just my opinion, especially penalized they are, right? So many yellow cards. But yes, kind of out of control a little bit of I'm going to get super involved, then I'm going to back off. And I guess the one thing that really stuck out how upset he was, there were 2 points where he was up and very animated, and it really felt like the ref might be worried about how angry he was a couple of different times. So maybe he knew, maybe he has that. And I remember being like, wow, he seems really up. That's a little too much. That's neither here nor there. I mean, everything is different in retrospect, right? And hindsight is 2020. So I feel differently about it. As soon as he was gone, I was like, wow, now I feel totally differently about how that whole match played out. And I feel bad for the staff and the players, and that's never easy. You never want to see that. It's pro sports. It's tough, but it still sucks to see.
25 shots in the match, 18 of them for CFC, 5 of them on target. So 8, and I know that I understand your frustration there because 18 CFC shots, 5 of them on target. And then 7 for core and only 2 on target. And then the way that core plays in their physical kind of frantic nature, they only passed at a 74% rate. But because of that nature, Chattanooga only was able to complete at a 78% rate on the day. Those are percentages that you're used to seeing for clubs that think the ball has cooties and they don't want anything to do with it. But you try to disrupt as much as Carolina Core does as a part of their DNA, and you kind of see the end result. 25 fouls called. You mentioned the physicality, 15 of them on Core and 10 of them on CFC. And to get into the other element of this discussion that I wanted to get into, it has to do with the independent nature of clubs in MLS Next Pro. That's what you want. You wanted to have the affiliated clubs, but you also wanted to have the investment from the independents. You're getting that at Core. You're getting that in Chattanooga. When it comes to Chattanooga, you've got a new office tower. I mean, it's like, the thing looks like the pagoda at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with what they're doing to try and invest. You're seeing from the independent clubs the urgency of investment, I guess, is probably the lack of a better way to phrase it. And so in Core specifically, yeah, we got to turn things around because we're an independent and we don't have other things to rely on, much like you're getting to see on a daily basis in Chattanooga with CFC.
Yeah, let me put my Chattanooga cap on here for a minute, if I may. Just for a second. Very, very proud of the facility. The stability didn't rhyme on purpose, I promise. Stability facility. The tenure of the club now, the 18th longest continually operating soccer club in America. Did you know there's 30 clubs in MLS? Did you know that? So that's a pretty crazy flex for Chattanooga Football Club. Like, that's pretty impressive. It's wild. It's changed so much in the last 5 years since I've been around. It has been a joy to be a part of, and I'm so proud of the Chat Hooligans of the team and the city and what they represent, and it's been cool to be a part of. I think independent soccer like that is the future of where soccer is headed in America. I hope it goes the way that, it seems like it's going the way we all want it to go, I guess, without getting into that. Things are growing quickly. The World Cup boom, I'm hoping, is coming right now. Carolina core, to pivot back to that and answer that question a little bit and address the investment, to get rid of the whole staff with such big names in U.S. soccer history, that is a cultural move. That is, we have a different philosophy here. And so, I think Carolina, speaking of Carolina, right, it's a crowded soccer market. There's a lot of really quality clubs here across all levels. USL is bringing force back to it. You've got your MLS club here. You've got Crown Legacy here. It's very good. And you have to draw attention. This is a cornerstone of the plan for Major League Soccer as far as growing this league, and the independent club itself needs to be successful for fiscal reasons. You can't just invest. Fans don't come to matches if teams aren't winning, if it's not exciting. So there's really, that's fans are butts about it. That's really where I feel like this conversation starts and ends. Does it make it a good conversation? Does it make it the right thing? No. I don't really know what the answer is there. I announce sports. I love sports. I love people. I'm always sad to see bad things happen to good people, no matter whether or not they deserved it from a performance standpoint. That's the bitter side of sports, and it's what makes the stakes high and makes it fun to be a part of, is that there are stakes to it. But it doesn't make it a fun thing to watch happen to somebody. So I hate to see that for Carolina core, and I hope they continue to grow and build, because we need the soccer market to succeed. I think all of us want to see soccer in America continue to grow, and turnover can be good, but it always hurts no matter who it is up front.
Yep, our Gabe Schrei is in Greensboro for unrelated to the topic that kind of fell into our lap that I could bug him in a hotel room about. Chattanooga goes to Osceola Heritage Park coming up this weekend. You're the last game of the weekend, taking on OCB. And Core, they get a home game on Saturday, Red Bulls 2, and their pressing style goes to that artificial pitch at Truist Point for the first match after. I'm intrigued. I want to see how Core responds at home after the news of this week against the team in Red Bulls 2 that we know is going to try to press them out of the building and up onto the concourse and out into the parking lot. It's an interesting schedule quirk that Core has to sit through for their first match after having basically blown up their entire soccer front office.
Yeah, I'm going to bring that up specifically. I don't know if I'd have waited to get rid of them if I was, finger on the trigger. But man, of all the weeks to have your whole staff gone, Red Bulls 2, they're going to come down to the South hungry for a win. This is a fun road trip for Red Bulls 2. This is a big money club. I think that as we get into the World Cup break, we might see some interesting things happening, like guys who are on break maybe saying, hey, why don't we just send him down to play with Red Bulls 2 for this week? We haven't got nothing going on. Let's see how he does in MLS next. Knock on wood for some of our clubs around the town, but maybe Almiron will be coming back to Chattanooga. That's a joke. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks in MLS Pro, but it's tough for Carolina Core to have to face Red Bulls 2 coming off of that big shakeup. That is a tough line on the schedule to start with. Otherwise, I'd say they're going to get a ton of momentum and an easy win, right? Otherwise, that's where my head is at.
You're looking new coach bump. You're going, okay, yeah, it's your barn and your surface is quirky, and you've got to kind of navigate all of that. But yeah, Red Bulls 2 is going to come in and try and press you out of the building. So let everybody know why you are actually there. You're not there as our breaking news correspondent, but why are you actually there in that neighborhood?
No, tonight, every night this week, I will be over UNC Greensboro for the state championships of softball. So join us. Great crew here. We've got the ESPN Plus crew with me from UNC Greensboro. So it'll be a good tournament. It's on the NFHS network. So I heard you talking about them. Get out your credit card, and we will see you soon live from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, thank you for doing this. I know that you got in really late last night to get ready. When's your first game?
It is at 5:00.
Oh, okay. So you got a little time to prep and eat and everything and head over to the stadium. I'm
working, baby. We got work to do.
Yes, exactly. All right. So get your work done. Thanks for hanging out. I know that you're going to be a part of our World Cup coverage as well, and it's always great to see you, my friend. Have great calls, and we'll catch up with you on the flip side. Get home safe, okay?
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
There he goes, Gabe Schrei. I said, it's our Gabe Schrei. Who am I kidding? It's our Gabe Schrei. In Greensboro, doing the high school softball championships on the NFHS network, the NCHSAA, if I remember correctly. It's the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, NCHSAA. And so he's there doing the high school championships. Literally, he got in late last night. I saw what was going on with Core. I was trying to piece one and one together. Yeah, then Chattanooga played Core last. And so we got Gabe to come on and talk about Core and what he's seen and all that kind of stuff. So that was big news out of MLS Next Pro, and we're going to keep an eye on their coaching search. And then we can hopefully catch up with the front office and find out about the process, about the season, and obviously level of satisfaction, the decision being made when it was made, all of that. So it's a lot of the dancing dynamic that is there with Carolina Core. And we are also trying to pursue the story out of Spokane and catch up with folks at the Spokesman or the Spokesman Review, however you identify the newspaper out there, and find out about what's going on with Velocity and what happened with Zephyr as things continue to develop out there in USL League One. So there's a lot of stuff to get into on a bunch of different fronts when it comes to the news elements and everything. And that was what we wanted to do here on a Wall Pass Wednesday, was kind of go over all the news as it was breaking and or broke. And we're able to kind of catch up and let you know what's going on with everything there. Teams are starting to release their Leagues Cup information. And it was announced this morning that Atlante is now in the tournament. And it was announced this morning that as a part of everything that's going on with Leagues Cup, Atlante, because of Mazatlan no longer existing and Atlante buying the license of Mazatlan, Atlante is now where Mazatlan was in Liga MX. So when you start seeing things like Atlante FC and you're going, well, where's Mazatlan? Mazatlan no longer exists. Well, in licensing form, they no longer exist. They played their last match at the Kraken in the Clausura, did not make the playoffs, and Atlante bought that license. And so since there is no promotion relegation right now in Liga MX, you kind of have to buy your way in. Atlante was like, okay, we'll buy our way in. We'll look at Mazatlan. Mazatlan's owners were like, okay, we'll sell. So they took their charter, basically. It's almost like a NASCAR charter. And they took their charter, sold it to Atlante, and so now the folks that had Mazatlan cashed out. Atlante is now in, and once again, there's no pro rel, so you just kind of hop the fence. And so Atlante is now the franchise that fills the slot left open by Mazatlan as they have sold their licensing. They sold their license. So August 4th kickoff announced final updates regarding participating clubs, match venues, etc. Atlante's official inclusion, beginning with the Apertura, in April, as we were just talking about. Liga MX owners approved the transfer of Mazatlan's franchise rights to Atlante. They replaced them in the Leagues Cup 26 tournament field, make their first appearance in the competition. Leagues Cup organizing committee finalized venue details for 2 FC Dallas matches. Venue assignments made in coordination with participating clubs, stadium partners, and tournament ops. FC Dallas is going to host Querétaro August the 5th at Mansfield Stadium in the suburbs of Dallas. It's where they hold the Division II NCAA College Football Championship in Mansfield, Texas, which is where also the franchise in the USL is going to be playing in short order. So they're going to be playing in Mansfield also. I think it's the former Texoma franchise, which is now in League Two. As they continue to build, they're going to work their way back into Mansfield as their venue. So 7:30 August 5th, FC Dallas and Querétaro are going to be at Mansfield, Texas South Mansfield Stadium. Dallas is going to face Chivas on the 8th in San Jose. I guess that's a home game for Dallas still. Going to be at PayPal Park, 6 o'clock local time kick. So 18 and 18, but those were the two biggest things that came out this morning, is that the schedule change and the welcoming of Atlante in Mazatlan's slot. So that's where we are with those. So you end up with the 18 from Major League Soccer, the 18 from Liga MX, and you have your Eastern and Western regions that are attached to this particular tournament. In the East, Cincy, Pachuca, Charlotte, Pumas, Columbus, Atlas. Miami, Monterrey, Nashville, León, Orlando, and Atlético de San Luis. Cruz Azul, Philly, NYC, Necaxa, Chicago, and Santos. That's your Eastern regions clubs, the 18 that are over there. In the West, Western 1, Tigres, Vancouver, Minnesota, FC Juarez, RSL, and now Atlante is Tier 3 in Western 1. Toluca, LAFC, Seattle, Chivas, Dallas, Querétaro, Western 2, and in Western 3, it's now Club America, San Diego, Austin, Tijuana, Portland, and Puebla. So that's the breakdown of all three of the all two regions and all three sections in each region. So that's where we are with that. That's your breakdown. But the biggest news this morning, Atlante was welcomed in with open arms since they got Mazatlan's charter. So just put Atlante in the Mazatlan slot, and there you are with your up-to-date rosters of your divisions in everything involving Leagues Cup. So, of course, the computer decides it's going to time out and not give me what I want. An application error, which I severely doubt, but okay, cool, fine. We do have later tonight, once again, we do have Libertadores and Sudamericana to discuss. I'm trying to see if I can find where it is. World Cup, friendlies, all countries. No, you're not going to give it to me. Okay, so I have to do it that way. All right. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We'll get into that this morning. And once again, tomorrow it is the Power Hour from 10 to 11. 9:30 tomorrow morning. It is the head coach for Carolina Ascent as they are getting ready for their championship run, going to Lexington to take on Lexington and Lex SC. And so we're going to catch up with the Carolina Ascent side of things and find out what this season has been like at 9:30. Philip Poole's going to join us, head coach and GM of Ascent, and he's going to join us and talk about the season and talk about stuff. That's the official term. So one of the two teams, the road team in the USL, the Gainbridge Super League Championship, is going to be joining us at 9:30 tomorrow morning, Philip Poole, and then Nino and Nico at 10 and 10:30 in the Power Hour to get us moving on a Thursday. So it'll be good to catch up with Coach, because last time I think I did an interview with him, I was sitting in the back of a car in Apalachicola, Florida, trying to get content while I was at the beach. Jeremy Frimpong got left out of the World Cup 26 squad. Crescenzio Somerville got selected. So the Netherlands squad. Flecken, Robin Roofs of Sunderland, and Bart Verbruggen. Defenders, Nathan Ake, Denzel Dumfries, Jorel Hato, Jurrien Timber, Jan-Paul van Hecke, Mickey van de Ven, and Virgil van Dijk. Midfielders, De Jong, De Roon, Gravenberg, Koop Miners, Tiani Reinders, Guus Thiel at PSV, Quentin Timber, and Mats Wiefer. Forwards, Brian Brobby, Memphis Depay, Cody Gakpo, Justin Kluivert, Noah Lang from Galatasaray, Daniel Malen, Crescenzio Somerville, and Wout Weghorst. So that's your Netherlands rundown of the layout this morning. So gossip, rumor, and innuendo, once again, from our friends at the Four Letter. And we will break it all down for you here as to what the news is, who might be going where, who's interested, and who is going to be chasing after whom, as the kids say, because we have to have the proper layout and our proper grammar. Otherwise, my mom would get really mad, and that's the last thing that you want here when it comes to moms and getting mad. So, all right. So here is the rumors as we know them. Juve are interested in signing Mo Salah on a free. That's the first time I've heard that one. Mo Salah on a free to Juve, according to La Repubblica. Luciano Spalletti wants to add him. And so you end up with Spalletti looking to add him to the squad after failing to reach Champions League, but he'd have to accept a lower salary than what he could be offered from a team in Saudi Arabia. Salah obviously previously played in Italy with Roma, wants to make a decision on his future after the World Cup. United and Spurs set to compete to sign Carlos Baleba from Brighton, according to The Independent. Spurs are the latest side to look at the 22-year-old as they weigh up signings to bolster De Zerbi's squad. Competition is expected from United over a deal that could require an offer worth in excess of £100 million. Baleba previously played under De Zerbi during his spell at Brighton, which could give Spurs the edge. De Zerbi is also looking at a move for Brighton defender Jan-Paul van Hecke. Arsenal lining up a move for Morgan Rogers. According to TalkSport, negotiations over an £80 million move have reportedly already taken place between the Gunners and the Reps. Arteta hopeful that he could be Arsenal's first marquee signing after winning Premier League, 16 goals, 37 league matches, linked with Chelsea, Manchester, and PSV. Barcelona, as was mentioned in the Twitch pitch early, exploring a €90 million deal for Anthony Gordon amid competition from Bayern Munich, according to AS. Highly regarded by the Barcelona hierarchy, versatility considered a useful addition to the squad. Blaugrana also want to make signings this summer based on a one-in, one-out basis. So you have to keep an eye on that too. It could impact plans to sign Marcus Rashford permanently for €30 million. Real Madrid, PSG, racing to sign Enzo Fernandez, according to Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. Both clubs have the 25-year-old on the short list for the summer, facing competition from Manchester City, who are set to confirm Enzo Maresca as their new boss to replace Pep Guardiola. Fernandez, 15-6 in 54 matches, all comps for the Blues last season, but got in trouble after he revealed he wanted to move to Real Madrid. Transfer would cost around £100 million, €100 million due to the length of his contract. City leading the race ahead of United to sign Nottingham Forest midfielder Elliot Anderson for over £100 million. That comes from our friends at the BBC. Villa interested in Liverpool defender Joe Gomez. That's from the four-letter paper. Roma want to bolster their squad for Champions League next season, signing Manchester United striker Joshua Zirkzee, exploring a move for West Ham's Crescenzio Somerville. That's from Gazzetta dello Sport. Inter Milan, hopeful of completing a double midfield swoop. Curtis Jones from Liverpool and Roma's Manu Kone. That's from Tuttosport. Barcelona are not interested. So this is a not rumor. Barcelona are not interested in Porto defender Jakub Kivior, despite reports elsewhere, Mundo Deportivo. I think that's the first time in recent memory that we've had a not rumor. Juve have no plans to part ways with Kenan Yildiz, who is considered the only untouchable player in the squad. Once again, that's Gazzetta. Paulo Dybala close to sealing an agreement to extend his contract at the Stadio Olimpico, Nicolo Schira. Chelsea will not listen to offers, so another not rumor. Not listen to offers for Joao Pedro linked with Barcelona, even if a world record 230 million euro bid is made. That's from our buddy Ben Jacobs. Brentford have made an offer worth 45 million euro to sign Cologne winger Said El Mallah, Florian Plettenberg again. Everton have identified Wan-Bissaka as a successor to Seamus Coleman, Telegraph. Nico Gonzalez, Manchester City, could leave the Etihad this summer after a lack of game time last season. That's from the Times. Spurs looking at Benfica keeper Anatoly Trubin, previously played under De Zerbi at Shakhtar Donetsk. That's from Nicolo Schira. And Roma remain keen on RB Leipzig winger Antonio Nusa. And that is from Corriere dello Sport. 2026 summer transfer window coming up soon. £9.49 billion. $13.08 billion spent on international transfers in the men's game, according to FIFA's Global Transfer Report. World Cup starts June 11. You can still sign free agent players after the deadline as long as they're not officially attached to any club. Premier League window, June 15, September 1st. La Liga, July 1st, September 1st. Serie A, June 29th, September 1st. Bundesliga, July 1st, August 31st. Ligue 1, July 1st, August 31st. WSL, June 18, September 3rd. MLS, July 13, September 2nd. Liga MX, July 2nd, September 11. Eredivisie, June 22nd to September 2. Portugal, July 1 to September 15. Saudi Arabia, July 22nd to October 12th. And Turkey, June 22nd to September 4th. So those are your transfer windows. Those are your transfer windows for any and all of the clubs that are up and around, coming up here in short order. And this is also what happens when you have a show that does not end directly at 11 o'clock. Sometimes you get to go developing stories and broken news. If I could find it. Where is it? I think I probably spirited past it, but I'm looking for a particular drop. And, of course, I can't find the silly thing, which probably means it's all the way down at the bottom, and it's buried, so I can't play the thing appropriately. It's like I'm looking through all of the goals that I have here, all of the stuff. Seriously, let me guess, you're going to be up at the top where I can't find you and where I didn't see you and just kind of went zooming right past, basically, is what you're telling me. Are you telling me this? You're telling me this, or that I didn't load it? I thought I'd loaded this. Ah, screw it. Anyway, let's go here the old-fashioned way. All right, Emma Hayes has named her 26-player roster for the June matches in Brazil. Triple Espresso frontline reunited for the first time since the gold medal game in 24. Trinity Rodman, Sophia Wilson, Mallory Swanson last played together August 10, 2024. Roster, no first-time call-ups, but Croy Bethune and Riley Jackson return. Facing the hosts of the 27 World Cup June 6th at Neoquímica Arena in Sao Paulo. June 9th at the Arena Castelao in Fortaleza. Westwood 1. U.S. currently second in the rankings. Brazil is 6th. Keepers, Claudia Dickey, Mandy McGlynn, Fallon Tullis-Joyce. 8 defenders, Tierna Davidson, Emily Fox, Avery Patterson, Lily Real, Tara Rudd, Emily Sonnet, Giselle Thompson, Kennedy Wesley. Midfielders, Croy Bethune, Lindsay Heaps, Claire Hutton, Riley Jackson, Rose Lavelle, Olivia Moultrie, Jaden Shaw, Lily Johannes. Forwards, Michelle Cooper, Trinity Rodman, Emma Sears, Allie Sentner, Mallory Swanson, Alyssa Thompson, Sophia Wilson. If Swanson plays June 6, 604 days between national team appearances, 103 caps, 38 goals, 17th all-time on the USA's all-time goal scorer list at the age of 28. Should she play in Sao Paulo at 665 days since the 2024 gold medal game. Back in April, Sophia Wilson made her first WNT roster in 15 months. Wilson's the 18th mother to play for the WNT. Should Mallory Swanson see game action, she would be 19. Wilson scored 4 goals in her return to the NWSL, looking for her first international goal since the 2024 semifinal win over Germany in the Olympics. 3rd camp in a row. Emma Hayes has 0 uncapped players. It's only 3 rosters in her tenure. Injury players unavailable: Naomi Guillermo, Kat Macario, Sam Coffey. That's just part of the notes that have been attached. But that is the rundown. So that is your news out of the U.S. women's national team this morning. All right, now I'm bugged. Now I'm truly bugged. It's like, so all of these things were stuff that I loaded last couple days, and I thought Monday I had played it, but I thought that I had played it on Monday, but for some strange reason, there it is. There it is, like in the middle of the pack. I've got to move this up just for my own satisfaction here. I have to move this up toward the top because, I mean, I was trying to play this. I was trying to find that, but I didn't find it in time. So anyway, played the old open. Oh, Bent co-founder, whatever you think you are. What is an AI viewer anyway? Seriously, what is an AI viewer? I'd love to know. And for those of you kind of watching for the first time, whenever we see a bot, first thing we do is we take care of the bot. I mean, I could be in the middle of a rant. I see a bot. I'm stopping. Viewer solicitation, if I could spell solicitation. Solicitation, B-O-T. 23 characters, submit report, boom. Thank you for submitting your report. Yeah, a lot of folks are heads-up producers here, and if they see a bot, they report it, and then I go on and blow it out. Morning, David. Morning, Alex. Morning, Badger. Glad to have you back. Morning, Ropes. Let's see. Who else is here this morning? Oh, yeah, me and my big link. Morning, Ricky. Ricky really thought we were going to have a Robinson-Campbell backline at this World Cup at one point in time. Yeah, I know. The way that George was on the upswing, I'm hoping that his time in the championship will help in that regard to get him into camps at least. I'd like to see him in camps to see how he interacts. Also, morning, David. So, and Danny eating bagels tonight. Good morning. Glad you're here. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Alex. And that's where we are with the folks in the Twitch pitch, not to mention the folks that are just kind of watching and hanging out. However you are accessing us, it's really, really pleased and pleasured to have you here. So, yeah, 5 Gotham players named to the roster for Brazil. Claudia Dickey named for Lorraine. Avery Patterson named for Dash. And that is, okay, so we mentioned those 2. We mentioned those 2. Sears mentioned for Racing Louisville. And Evander named Player of the Month for MLS for May of 2026. Understandably so. There's your Atlante news. There's your PayPal Park news. 3 Kansas City Current players were named once again to the women's national team call-up. Early, we got to get into what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. Brought to us by our friends at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important. Helps them, helps us, and helps you for all of the things. If you wanted to watch Libertadores and or Sudamericana tonight, you could do that on Fanati's because you get all the BNs, and BN has one of the things that is there. You get Libertadores and Sudamericana. You get all of the BNs. You get everything involving CAF, the African qualifiers, AFCON, World Cup qualifiers. It's all there. Champions League. You got to see Mamelodi Sundowns winning the Champions League this past weekend. You get that. You get a CDO from Chile. You get Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. You get TV out of Venezuela if you want to add it. But if you have cable here locally you have the Spanish-speaking package, you can watch it for free. Then you also get ties to Tigo Sports. You get ties to CATV. You get to watch the Copa Argentina on TIC. TIC, once again, with their great coverage of everything after Libertadores and Sudamericana matches are over. They have their coverage in La Noche, mandatory viewing. So you can get all of that at Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here. You have later today, BN, Libertadores and Sudamericana on BN. Conference League final, Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano at 3 o'clock. USL Championship, Sporting Jackson San Antonio is at 7:30. BN Espanol simulcasting Libertadores. 2 simulcasting Conference League. ESPN Plus has 2 League One matchups and the USL Cup with El Paso and AV Alta. Paramount Plus has the USL Championship match with Sporting and San Antonio. Women's soccer DAZN here in the U.S. Spanish Liga Femenil. It is Barcelona and Real Sociedad. That is at 1 o'clock. I'm trying to see if there's anything else, any other piece of news that we might have missed while we were flying around. Let's see. We mentioned Jeremy Frimpong. We mentioned so Chris Richards is back in training before the Palace final. That news is out. So how many minutes and how healthy? Those are the larger questions involving Chris Richards. And you know that Mauricio Pochettino will be keeping an eye on all of that. Also, it was, let's see, we mentioned Nuno. The cost of Ruben Amorim's sacking. Man United's financial report, Parker Smith at Sky, Peter Smith at Sky. Financial report reveals a £16.7 million payout to Ruben Amorim, reflecting positive progress. Operating profit up by over £40 million in the 9 months to March 31st of 2026, compared with the same period the year before. Earnings up, off-field cost cutting. Sacking Ruben Amorim cost £16.7 million, but United still carry $650 million in debt from the Glazer era. So that might be your deeper dive later today, is really just how close the Manchester United is to hitting the B word when it comes to their debt. Manchester United also close to agreeing to a deal for Atalanta's Ederson. Was named in the neighborhood of 42 million, I think it's 42 million euro. So you have that coming up as well. All right. Spurs are going to conduct a major review. This is one of the other things that was mentioned but hadn't had the chance to kind of stare at. Michael Bridge and Declan Ollie at Sky. Spurs are going to conduct a major review into their injury crisis stadium's retractable pitch, one area being investigated. Major review of their performance and medical departments, which included an investigation into whether the Spurs stadium retractable pitch is contributing to the club's ongoing injury crisis. Spurs lost the most days to injury of any Premier League side, missing a combined 370 games across all comps due to injury this campaign. And the club's failure to keep players fit nearly led to relegation. So, as a part of it, second consecutive injury hit season, Spurs who've lost the most days and games to injury of any Premier League side since the start of the 24-25 campaign, and it is by 15 to 20%. Dan Lewandon, the club's new performance director, completed a thorough review of the injury issue after 3 months on the job. The pitch is apparently an area of concern. Injuries to Kulusevski, Dragusin, and Madison were being focused on. This season, Ben Davies broke his ankle. Wilson Odebear ruptured his ACL, all at home. Regularly carrying out external independent testing on their home surface to assess the bounce of the pitch compared to that of the training pitch, but to date, the results are inconclusive. However, further detailed testing planned in the coming weeks to analyze whether there is a difference in their home surface compared to other Premier League pitches. Spurs investigation comes with Real Madrid's new retractable pitch in the spotlight. Bernabeu, since it reopened, they have suffered a spate of ACL injuries themselves. Now they're going to introduce a new system to combat injuries. Significant focus on raising standards across medical and performance, according to non-executive chair Peter Charrington. The review is understood to have uncovered structural issues within the performance setup of the club, belief that there is a lack of integration, communication, and shared decision-making, which has led to injuries and injury recurrences. So, higher level of support for players individually is wanted by De Zerbi, which prompted Lewandon to build a small team approach, 6 players assigned to a physio, higher quality programming, better decisions around training design and physical preparation. So keep an eye on that, Spurs fans, going forward when it comes to the injuries and the treatment of same. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. Once again, tomorrow we catch up with Philip Poole at 9:30, head coach and general manager, Carolina Ascent, as they prep for a championship, getting ready to hit the road to take on Lexington in Lexington for the Gainbridge Super League final. We are also efforting, in the interest of equal time, catching up with Lex SC as well. Power Hour, 10 and 10:30 to get you through your Thursday. So that is what we know here on a Wednesday. Thanks to Gabe Schrei. Thanks to Dylan Butler. Thanks to all of y'all for hanging out with us as you always do here on SDH AM. This will be available in audio form later on. You can catch your favorite show and your segments, and we'll break it all down for you that way as to how things are going here in the world of soccer. USMNT is supposed to hit the pitch. They have not done so as of yet down in Fayetteville. So we'll keep an eye on all that and have the reports for you as we go. We get closer and closer and closer to this cup that the world is chasing after here on short order on SDH AM. Thanks for being the part of SDH AM that you are, for everybody here, to all of you there. Mucho platio, play it safe. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05. We'll see you then.